Do you own a business and you're in the market to buy your own building? Maybe you've been leasing for years, paying another landlord money, watching his building appreciate in value while your lease prices keep going up. So you've been out there looking at the various commercial sites, the broker sites, and you are seeing a lot of terms for different types of commercial buildings. One keeps popping up that you see a lot, but you don't completely understand what it is, and that is the flex space or commercial flex building. What does that mean? Well, in this video, I'm going to explain it to you, so let's get into it. To start, I want to first talk about the different type of commercial buildings that are available that you're probably going to see. And for some context, I am talking to business owners that are small to medium businesses, not huge corporations that are going to be buying, large skyscraper type buildings or huge warehouses. This is for the more locally based small to medium business, although in our business here, building these buildings, we've sold to some global companies also. So there's a lot of different companies that need different types of buildings out there. So in the general segment types available, the first one I'm going to cover is office, and I'm going to combine something with office, and that's medical. You will often see medical/office or office/medical. That is because these two types of businesses need essentially the same type of building. If you think about going into your doctor's office, it literally has the word office in it. They send you into that back room, it's just a room that could be an office, right? So generally speaking, the medical facilities mirror what a business that needs offices needs. So we're just going to combine those two. For office space businesses, these are going to be the type of businesses that don't need any type of warehouse. They don't necessarily need a location that's on the highest visibility road out there. Maybe you own an insurance company or you have a staffing company. You need a building that has offices, has a break room, has bathrooms, that kind of setup. So that is the office space segment that you'll find out there. Now, another aspect of what we call each of these segments tends to be where they're located. So office and medical tend to be in fairly high traffic areas, not necessarily a full retail center where they have to be on the busiest road. Although for a lot of medical practices, I know they don't mind that. If you owned a dentistry practice, you wouldn't mind being on a busy road because let's face it, somebody is going to walk in that just knew you were there. But that being said, a lot of office complexes may be, not right on the busiest road out there. I'm going to leave that in, but just tucked back in a little park that has offices in it. So when we're talking about this medical office type of commercial space, the buildings themselves are designed more or less like a residential house. In a lot of cases around here in Dallas-Fort Worth, they actually look just like houses. They are wood-framed buildings. They have, brick, stucco, stone on the outside. They have pitched roofs with shingles that look just like houses. In a lot of cases, they are multi-tenant, so you could think of some of these look like townhomes, maybe triplexes, quadplexes, but effectively they look like residential homes because all they have to house inside of them are people doing office work. So you don't need super high ceilings and all the features that you'll find in some other spaces. The next segment of commercial types of buildings is retail. So a retail business is a business that is selling things to the public. With a retail type building, that type of business owner wants a high traffic public facing frontage to a road. You want 1,000 cars driving by every day because you want them to see your business. Your business is designed so that people walk through the door, come in and buy things from you. Different than some of the other businesses out there. If you own the office or the type of business that needs an office space, you don't necessarily need or want people walking through your door depending on the type of business that you are, but when you're a retail business, you do. So the types of buildings you will see with retail businesses differ from the office type of buildings. Typically slightly higher ceilings, more open spaces, but they aren't warehouses either. If you own that shoe store, that bicycle shop, you don't need the massive building with huge garage doors on it. You need a typical retail style store that allows you to get your racks and things in place. The back of it will typically have what we call a man door or walk door with a smaller garage door that will allow you to bring in your inventory through there. But those buildings are designed for the retail type of business. Now, a lot of them are multi-tenant buildings. So what we call strip centers, where you will see a big wide building that will have several tenants along it. In my suburb, I can think of one or two that they have everything from some food-based businesses like sandwich shops, furniture store, supplements, supply store, all these kinds of things in them. Some of these buildings are standalone. There's one that is a liquor store that's a pretty big one, so it's a standalone building, but it's right next to the strip buildings. So the retail customer wants that good location, and they want a building that works for their type of business. The next segment of business buildings or commercial buildings is industrial. Really, I'm talking about light industrial because, again, we're talking about small to medium-sized businesses. But these are the type of businesses that could not work out of an office space and will not work out of a retail space. Think manufacturing companies, maybe a big air conditioning company, a company that makes cases for mobile phones, an aerospace company. They get their business a different way. They don't need or want the public walking through their doors. Therefore, from a location standpoint, they don't need to be on the busiest road. They are typically in what we call an industrial park, which is going to be a business park that may be a little off the beaten path, and all the buildings and businesses that are in there are those types of businesses. Now, we are talking about industrial buildings typically being more warehouse style. Big open buildings, very high ceilings. I walked into an appliance distributor the other day, and in their warehouse, they must have had appliances stacked up 20 feet. They had these huge forklifts that were running around, loading docks. Those are the types of buildings that industrial businesses need. So again, from a location standpoint, they don't care or worry about being on the busy road. They just need a space and a building that fits their needs, which is significantly different than a retail or an office business. Okay, so I've talked about 3 or 4 different types of buildings that you'll find in the commercial world. So what is a flex building? Let's get to the point here, Steve. Well, a flex building is, as the name implies, flexible. But what does that mean? The building's not literally flexible. It's flexible for the types of businesses that can use it. And often its location adds to that also. So at Avondale, we build buildings that we call flex buildings. Some of that is because of the locations that they are in. But the buildings themselves also have that flexibility to attract multiple different types of businesses. Several of the businesses that I just mentioned can work out of these types of buildings. We build them as steel buildings, so they have huge spans. There are no support columns going through these buildings. They have very high ceilings, and in the build to suit, we can build them even higher. We've had some companies that split the line between being a manufacturer while also having a lot of inventory, warehouse style. They need very high ceilings. They need those overhead doors, those loading docks. We have other cases where you will have somebody come into one of these that has a showroom type of business. Maybe they own a flooring store. They need a big open space for all of their selections, but they also need that warehouse set up in the back because, hey, we've got a lot of heavy tile and wood and things that have to come in and go back out to the jobs. There are really just a lot of different types of businesses that can fit in these buildings. And again, the location makes a huge difference also. We have done some business parks that are what I would call more industrial. And all the customers that buy the buildings from us are those types of businesses. But I'm standing in one that faces a major business highway, gets tons of traffic, and is going to be really appealing for the type of business that falls into that maybe half retail, half warehouse. Again, things like that lighting, decorative lighting company, that countertop company, even getting into businesses that do auto repair, indoor sports businesses, think indoor pickleball courts or batting cages. These are the perfect types of buildings for that because they're very flexible. We can come in and do finish out that they need. They're tall enough to build second floor mezzanine sections, which would be where we come in with steel and build kind of a second floor in areas to get office spaces and things out of the first floor and still allow them to do what they need to do inside the building. And then, of course, fronting a high exposure, busy road helps bring the eyeballs to the building itself. All you have to do is put a sign up there and everybody sees where you are. So in the example of the indoor sports buildings, they need these types of big buildings, but it's not ideal if they're stuck down in some industrial park, and I've seen that before. You go to an indoor pickleball court and you have to go into the industrial business park and there's 18-wheelers parked across the street. It still works, but it's not ideal. They would probably rather be in a more retail type of high traffic scenario. The buildings themselves, I'm standing in one now. Again, they are steel framed buildings, so we have huge spans. As you can see behind me here, this building is 200 feet wide and 60 feet deep. We can build, at a minimum, this building has about a 15.5-foot clearance in the back, almost 24 in the front. We can build these taller for the build-to-suits out there. And they can even be office buildings, again, very flexible. One of the buildings we're doing has a business coming in that really they're moving their headquarters. They're a good-sized local company that is in the construction business. They're moving their headquarters into the building, so they will have a lot of offices, break rooms, conference rooms, but they also are in the business where they have a showroom. They want to be able to sell people inside of this building, have their, all of their selections in there. So the building is very flexible for that situation because they are able to bring their whole headquarters in here, have part of it be offices, part of it be warehouse, part of it be showroom. So that's really what a flex building is, why it might appeal to certain businesses, especially if you feel pigeonholed into one type of building or another. At Avondale Development Group, we are building these flex buildings, and we mean it when we say they are flexible. So I hope this video helps explain what a flex building is. Good luck to you if you're out there looking for commercial property. We appreciate you. I'll see you in the next one.